Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. You can follow me on X Twitter at Movies TV Mad and on Instagram and Threads at Movies TV Mad X. Greetings to you on the latest DCU Daily. Today I have yet another world exclusive. Last time I had one of these, it was to exclusively tell you that Brave and the Bold wouldn't be happening in its current form. Since that time, we have heard from the director, Beard. You know what Beard means? It means BS, basically. That Andy Muschietti is not going to direct that film and never was. But Andy Muschietti has already said in an interview in Argentinian that they don't want to release Brave and the Bold at the same time as the Batman 2. They want the Batman 2 to happen first. They don't want two Batmen. But Brave and the Bold is not happening. So I have a world exclusive for you. What's going on? And this is connected to the secret project that James Gunn has just started writing that he mentioned on Threads in response to a fan the other day. After that, we're going to discuss why Man of Steel and Superman Returns underachieved at the box office, and there's a simple answer to that. It's Smallville. I'll get into that later on. But first of all, here is my world exclusive. James Gunn is writing a world's finest movie. Brave and the Bold is dead at DC Studios, and James is writing, he's writing that movie. And he's writing a world's finest movie. And that's very exciting. But isn't it ironic? After Superman comes out, the next time we'll see Superman is with Batman. After Man of Steel, we saw Superman with Batman as well. Isn't it all very interesting? Because they've done their math. They've worked out that Superman is going to make the same box office as Man of Steel. So here we go again. We better introduce Batman with Superman in a Superman and Batman movie. Is it a good idea? How did it work out with BVS? Well, over 870 million. Not so sad. Should have made more money. A disappointed studio. A very divisive movie. But the difference between World's Finest and Batman vs. Superman, which really is kind of the Dark Knight Returns, it's a kind of loose adaptation of that graphic novel, where I think they should have just done a faithful adaptation of the Dark Knight Returns. And I don't know why Snyder didn't do that. Maybe DC wouldn't allow it. Maybe the studio wouldn't allow it. I never understood that. And I think if they did do a faithful adaptation of that graphic novel, The Dark Knight Returns, it wouldn't have been divisive and people would have ate it alive. Zack Snyder was born to faithfully adapt a Dark Knight Returns adaptation, but there you go, that's gone. So that's what I've been told. Now, I have got a pretty good record with my exclusives. I've got some really good sources in the industry. Right now, you're saying I'm a Pinocchio, I'm a liar, I'm a beard, because I'm a small YouTuber. How can I know these things? Small YouTuber, I'm non-existent. I barely get a like on my videos. I get it, but it doesn't mean, just because a prostitute stands on the witness stand and says she saw someone, do a crime, it doesn't mean she has bad eyesight. I've been told this. I have, I have a good record, as you all know, and I believe this is true, that James Gunn is writing a world's finest movie. And for me, this is exciting. This is good. This is what we want to see. Now, of course, you should take this with a pinch of salt, because sources can be wrong. Sources can spread misinformation. I trust this source. This source has given me great information that has ended up being true in the past. But obviously, take it with a pinch of salt. But I believe this is happening, that the DCU Batman will be introduced in a world's finest adaptation. And as I say, for me, this is really, really exciting if this turns out to happen. And so we started off, we were going to get a Brave and the Bold movie. The cynical side of me thinks we were never getting a Brave and the Bold movie. It's not that James and DC Studios and WB wanted to lie to us. I think that was just something they put out there to say we're doing a Batman movie. I, the Andy Muschietti thing, it was very ill conceived, and it was to upscale you know, the flagging projections of the Flash movie. The projections were actually a lot kinder than the actual box office, because that movie was a financial disaster, and they knew it, and they were desperate. That's why they had Stephen King say he saw the movie and loved it. And the only reason he did that was for Andy Muschietti, who he's worked alongside with his his It adaptations. So that's why that happened. Then the lie that Tom Cruise had seen The Flash and also liked it. We found out later on that Tom is in negotiations with a contract to do movies for WB as well. And I think that's what that was all about. These people really have no morals when it comes to their business. We really are talking about King's Landing. We're really talking about those type of people. They will do anything and they will say anything to become successful, to keep their power. But anyway, I think that World's Finest is the perfect way to introduce the DCU Batman, and a lot of DC fans will be very, very excited. Of course, as I keep on saying, this all depends on a successful Superman movie, and it's up to you if you deem Superman into having a similar box office to Man of Steel as successful. In about 4 minutes' time, I'll discuss why Man of Steel and Superman Returns underachieved at the box office. But yeah, World's Finest is a positive Superman and Batman story, which is very different to The Dark Knight Returns. The Dark Knight Returns is about an older, grounded Batman who's tired. He's a bit more rough. He's not inspired anymore. He's a different person. When people get older, they become bitter and cynical. It's a bit like, Jake Skywalker in The Last Jedi. Rian Johnson decided to give us an older, grittier Luke Skywalker, because when we get older, I'm not like that. I love the world and I love people, even at 52 years old. And it wasn't the best ideas to do that to Luke Skywalker, but that's what they did. But I think this is an interesting story. This is a positive story. James Gunn wants to tell positive DC stories. And for me, it's all about originality. It's all about doing things that have never been done. And, it's interesting, again, you can have the debate whether if this actually happens, if this is the best idea, yet again, to give Batman, a movie with Superman rather than giving Batman his own movie. Here's the thing about that. We've had so many Batman movies. The reason it was a good idea to introduce Batman in BVS, the DCEU Batman in BVS, because we'd already had a Dark Knight trilogy. So maybe it was a little bit refreshing to do that. And again, we've had the Batman. We're getting the Batman too. By the time, if we do get a World's Finest, by the time we see it, we would have already seen 2 Batman movies. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because there doesn't seem to have ever been any development on Brave and the Bold. It's a very, very odd situation. And also, I think this is what James Gunn's going to be doing. He's going to be all over these bigger stories. He's like the showrunner. Like your showrunners on your favourite shows write the premieres. They write the big episodes, the big deaths, the big arc episodes, the season finales, the series finales. And then the other writers in the writer's room, they write the lesser episodes, if you like. And this is what's happening with the DCU. A few people have said to me, Mick, we don't want a Sergeant Rock movie. We just want big characters. Nobody's asked for this. Nobody asked for The Running Man. Nobody asked Stallone to do Total Recall. They were 2 great movies. Nobody asked for Gremlins. Nobody asked for Ghostbusters, but we love them. Nobody asked for Back to the Future. This whole thing, nobody asked for this, is nonsense. You're looking at a man who doesn't have hate for James Gunn, just wants to see great movies. I love the Snyderverse, but this is where we are now. And if by some miracle the Snyderverse is restored, I'll be one of the happiest kids in the camp. I'll be one of the happiest campers, but it doesn't look like that's happening anytime soon. I don't want Superman to fail. As a Superman fan, I want to see a great Superman movie, and I think World's Finest is a great way to go. But we will see if that's actually happening. In 2006, they released Superman Returns. It barely made 400 million. It was a flop. We discussed the box office and the budget kind of escalating to 300 million. That was a flop. Now, Man of Steel is no way a flop. At 650 million plus, that was solid money, but not the kind of money that, the studio deemed the Superman movie should be making, considering how much money that film cost as well. But Superman Returns and Man of Steel didn't underachieve at the box office because they're bad adaptations. They're really, really good adaptations. I think that Superman Returns is not a great movie, but a movie of great moments. And Man of Steel is a ballsy, balls to the wall, contemporary Superman movie. And I want to see fresh takes on any pre-existing characters, whether it's Harry Potter, DC characters, Marvel characters. We're getting a Lord of the Rings movie, we're getting a Gollum movie. I want to see originality. I want to see things I haven't seen before. Smallville gave us something we never saw before. It was a fresh, unique take. It changed a little bit of canon, and people are always dubious about canon changes, but when it works, it works. And the canon changes in Smallville worked for the good of the project. Superman and Lois was something fresh, modern, and unique. Again, that's why I loved it. But the reason that Superman Returns and Man of Steel underachieved at the box office was because everyone was in love with Smallville. In fact, WB wanted Tom Welling to play Superman in Superman Returns, or whatever that film was going to be at that point, but the CW or the WB or whoever wouldn't allow it because of scheduling. But here's the thing. If Smallville rightly only had 5, planned seasons, and then they spun off the Smallville universe into Superman movies and a DC universe, and that's where they introduced Green Arrow and Impulse and all the characters they did on the show. I think, that was missed potential. So Tom Welling could have been in a Superman movie as Superman. Imagine Michael Rosenbaum in that movie as Lex Luthor, having the history of Smallville, backing Clark, Superman's and Lex Luthor's relationship. You could have had Lana Lang cameos. We would have had Erica Durant as Lois Lane. It would have been amazing. I couldn't see any way of that failing. And this is why I think, especially why Superman Returns underachieved. Smallville was Smallville was the way people saw modern Superman. And that's what they wanted to see in a movie. And because Smallville was so popular, people kind of rejected Superman Returns. Superman Returns did make some mistakes in its execution, aka the costume. I mean, that costume is probably nearly as bad as the Green Lantern costume. They got that wrong, but there's lots of things they got right and wrong. And I think if they adapted Smallville and continued Smallville, 5 seasons of Smallville, then a Smallville Superman movie, I think that would have worked. People thought of Tom Welling as Superman, even though at that stage we'd never seen him in the costume. And I think, that was a good idea, and they should have done that. And it never happened because they wanted Smallville to continue. Because the problem is with series television, successful series television, they want to stretch it. What happens if you stretch an elastic band? In the end, you struggle to stretch it and it breaks. This is why most series get worse and worse and worse as they go on for too long. We know the problems that Game of Thrones had, from probably seasons 5, 6, 7, because they were running out of stuff to adapt. But the longer shows go on for, the less quality there is. And, 5 seasons of Smallville would have been enough. And I always said they should have spun off to a Metropolis show. But a movie universe from Smallville would have been more successful than Superman Returns ever was. Because ultimately, people didn't embrace the continuation of the Reeves-verse, the Donnerverse, because that wasn't Christopher Reeve. Brandon Routh did a fine job, but he was no Christopher Reeve.